Okay, let's move on to item E, and let's don't everybody stand up at once. Chief, thanks for being here. Let me start this with a little bit of an explanation of why we're here at this moment to talk about this item. This weekend was unusual for, or this last week was unusual for Prescott and the weather conditions that we faced. I think as the week started, the middle of the week, we thought we were in great shape to whiz through this thing, and it'd be a normal little snowstorm. It turned out it was a little bit different, and we've had folks already compare and talk about 1967, and that we did a better job in 1967. Let me assure you, because I was here, that we did do a better job in 1967. And the conditions that we encountered on Thursday were even different than 1967. We didn't have this severe drop in temperature in 1967 as we did this last week. And the city, we dropped the ball in some areas, and no question about it. We still have folks out there because of the ice conditions that are having difficulty getting in and out. So the reason we're here today and talk about this is we want to do better, and the way we'll do better is critiquing what's happened the last few days. Yesterday morning at 8 o'clock, the acting city manager had called a meeting with the department heads, and there were 3 of us from the council at that meeting, and that purpose was not to find fault, but to find solutions. And with everybody going in with the right attitude, why we're here to discuss that today.
First of all, I don't want this to seem like I'm beating a 3-legged horse, but I'd like to apologize to the citizens. We didn't do a very good job. And I'll take responsibility along with the rest of my cohorts up here. But one thing that we did do is the meeting that we had yesterday, we realized that mistakes were made. We take responsibility for the mistakes made, and we're going to try to fix them. And I think that's Chad, Mike, and everybody, we discussed that. First of all, congratulations to the fire department and police department for doing an excellent job in a bad time. And yes, this storm was a little different than 1967 when I was here too, and got to play in that one. But the temperatures played a bigger role this time than last time. Some of the things that we could have done better is make sure we got out there a little bit quicker, and that's been discussed. We need to realize that we do have only 10 snow plows that are accessible to the public, because we're trying to keep the ones for public safety and public works in order. I think the idea, and I don't know who had the idea, maybe Lori came up with it or whatever, about putting the plows on the garbage trucks is probably one of the smartest things that we've come up with in a while. They get out there, they do the job, they're heavier, they have chains on them, and yes, when they go through residential areas, which they do, they can plow it out there. One thing I think we need to look at, though, said do not plow or shovel snow into the right-of-way. It kind of needs to be looked at both directions. When you have a plow that goes by your house and covers up your driveway that you've shoveled out, you got to go shovel it out again. Not only does it make extra work for you, but it also makes you angry, and you throw it back out the road. So we need to come up with something to do to keep from blocking people's roadways that they've cleared themselves. So that's something that we need to look at. And again, I want to say that it's something that we need to look at as far as putting blades on our garbage trucks that will help solve the problem. Did we do a lot wrong? Yes. Did we do a lot right? Yes. Hopefully we'll learn from our mistakes, and there was a mistake made in this storm. We need to try to fix it, and I think everybody's got their heads together and are trying to fix it. There's still going to be people that complain, and they have a right to complain. I can't tell you how many phone calls I got, and I sympathized with every one of them because I was in the same boat they were. So let's try to do a little better job than what we have done in the past, and At least we didn't put glass down on the roads this time, so we're okay. Thanks for putting this.
Tammy?
First, I think we need to point out that there was not one life lost. But I have to tell you, after the debrief yesterday, I have to applaud you guys, number one. When I said this to a citizen, because I felt compelled, and somebody, you know, when they talk to staff, if citizens want to talk to a council person, I volunteer to call them. One person yesterday for 30 minutes yelled at me. I don't mind, but I'm trying to have a solution. And when I said that to this person, this person said, well, I hope somebody loses their life so you guys get sued and you take care of this problem. That's the sort of calls we've been getting. And like I said, I kept my calm and I asked this person to reflect on how that person was treating me, because I said, instead of bullying and yelling, I said, that's not the way to have solutions. And I tried to give some of the solutions like we came up with. So number one, all of you that are respectful in the audience, thank you. Number two, I think this is an opportunity for us to work together as a community. When you see the emails, well, why don't, you know, and you see the blogs, and they say, well, why don't you just go to the curb? Well, gosh, guess what? You can't go to the curb if there's an abandoned car there, so don't abandon your car. If you're not going to be able to get around town in a snowstorm, keep your car wherever it is out of sight, and wherever it is. Because frankly, they did, you know, they worked 12-hour shifts, round the clock for 5 days. You know what? Just because we sit up here or they work for the city doesn't mean that citizens have the authority or the right to condemn us and swear at us at every angle. You know, I think that's where, you know, I stand for the 6 pillars of character: trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. I founded that in Arizona, and I was really saddened by the behavior of some of our citizens. And frankly, I was snowed in too. None of us had our driveways. I mean, I got out there after back surgery, and I'm sitting there trying to do it myself. And I had 1 lane. Just because we're on the council, everybody says, oh, you must get, I bet your homes were plowed out. No, they weren't. They don't know where, you know, half these guys don't know where we live, and that's fine. But, so I think, number one, there are solutions. Number two, I so apologize. This was not intended to be like this. And so please, let us try to get better. And number three, work together as a community. I think about, you know, all the students that I work with. You know, there's youth groups out there. There are firefighters, kids. You know what? I saw the nonprofits step up and say, if you need something shoveled, we'll bring some kids out there or some students. You know, instead of sitting there condemning us, let's try to find solutions, because we're a community, and it's a great community. And just because 1% is yelling and screaming doesn't mean the rest of us have to join that bandwagon. So thanks, you guys, and I will be back shoveling my house after meeting.
Jim?
Thank you. I did appreciate meeting with you folks yesterday morning. I did appreciate having open dialogue and frank dialogue, especially with, you know, on Friday when I got a barrage of calls at my business because we were open, I didn't have anybody to send them to here in the city. And that was one of the areas that is being addressed, and I appreciate that. I agree with both my fellow colleagues down here that in general, you know, this is something that we didn't anticipate. I mean, in Arizona, you don't expect to wake up in the morning and have snow and 4-degree temperature and such like that. I'll agree with Tammy Lynn down here in the fact that my driveway got shoveled back in 2-3 times throughout the day. I really feel bad for my wife with my broken back and what have you. I didn't go out and shovel, she did. And God bless America that I have a 4-wheel drive too. So I mean, I saw some people doing some pretty dumb things. It wasn't just the fact of breakdown of communication of the city. And I saw some people with non-snow tires, non-year-round mud and snows and stuff, you know, out there on roads that were unfit for people to be driving on. So sometimes you got to take a little bit of accountability for your own actions. I will say this: I get up in the morning normally somewhere between 4 and 5 o'clock. I normally turn on that radio somewhere in the vicinity of 5 o'clock. Whatever time KYCA comes on, sometimes at 5, sometimes at 5:30, sometimes at 6. You never know over there, but whatever time it is, I heard no less than at least 3 or 4 times in a given 1 or 2 hour period of time. You don't need to be on the road, don't be on the road. I heard it over and over and over. As a matter of fact, due to KYCA being on the radio, I sent my people back home both days, Thursday and Friday, because of the ice out on Highway 69 and the fact that the road conditions weren't good. So there was ample stuff out there saying, stay off the road, don't be out there. So I want to applaud the city. One of the things I'd like Chad to point out is one of the things we found out yesterday is with the 500 miles of road in this community, what does it cost to cinder? I heard a big number. I didn't hear a couple of $1,000 like I looked up here and saw. I heard something different than that as to what it would cost to actually pay to salt and cinder 500 miles of road in this community. Chad, what was that number we were told?
Both Mayor, Councilman Lamerson, the materials cost that actually didn't get in that slide there is $50,000. I offered you another cost if we wanted to go into the salt or the ice slicer, which is typically what the states are doing. That cost is going to push us about $150,000 to $200,000. So it is a policy decision. Do we continue with the product we have, or do we move into a salt mixture like they're doing back in the Midwest, like they're doing in Flagstaff? And do we get enough snow that it justifies us spending, $500,000 to $1 million during the winter months? Because if we spend that, where's that money come from?
Well, here again, it goes to a point of at what level do we look to other areas that maybe we can share equipment or we can share certain things for the sake of 1 or 2 storms a year? Is how prepared do you want to be for 2 or 3 feet of snow in the city of Prescott, and how many times does that happen in 10 years? And those are some of the things you got to take into consideration when you're dealing with the public's money. So anyway, I think there was enough complaints to go around, not just with city staff and not with the council and not just with our residents out there, but hopefully we learned something by watching this storm, and maybe we as a community can respond differently next time.
Steve?
Well, I just want to add a couple things. Number one, first I want to thank Bobby King and Chad, Mark, the 2 chiefs. I happened to be out in that storm, as you probably well know, 3 different times at midnight and on. I assure you, citizens of Prescott, our employees were not sleeping. But I would also assure you the fact that we need to do a better job with our telephone responses. I will man a telephone. I'm sure our fellow council people would man a telephone. When you're a citizen and you need to talk to somebody and you get switched all over the city, and as Mr. Lamerson would say, even to Ethiopia, it's not a very friendly response. So as far as I'm concerned, the city responded, but our communication levels could be a lot better. And like Mr. Lamerson said, at what level do we think we ought to have 30 snowplows sitting around just in case? There's a lot of blame that goes around to everyone, but I want to thank you guys because I was out there. And we couldn't have put another man on another piece of equipment because we just didn't have it. But as far as our communication on the radio, in the newspaper, and on our telephone system, our communication needs to be improved tenfold.
I was out in the storm, and luckily, and by choice, I drive a 4-wheel drive truck because I know we get weather here. Now, being a realtor, I educate my clients when they're here, whether they're just visiting, deciding to come here, or buy. And I tell them, if we have snow, you may be snowed in for a couple of days. Don't go out. And I just can't stress that. I don't care if it's July and gorgeous out. I tell them, don't go out. I've had people, and they called me and said, well, I have to go to my Pilates class. You don't have to go to your Pilates class. I'm sorry. Stay inside for the day. Enjoy the hot chocolate and watch football. So the ones that were truly stranded, had emergencies, I do sympathize with them. There are some communication things we can do different, but some of it just boils down to common sense. And the amount of cars I saw out there that were going too fast, sliding around, not equipped to be out, and really had no purpose of being out, I mean, I went to Walmart because I knew I could go there, and I was trying to get a snow shovel, I broke mine. And the amount of people in that store was phenomenal. And I was like, what do you all do? I mean, I had food, I had everything, and if I did not have my vehicle, I would not have been out in line. So I really just plead to the citizens to use common sense next time. Yeah, there's some things that we will improve on, and I think the suggestions in this PowerPoint are great. And I'd like to see the city have more four-wheel drive vehicles. But I really, like Tammy, the people yelling at us, I'm really tired of hearing about people that live back east. They have specialized equipment, they have full-time crews. They don't deal with this once a year, they deal with it on a daily basis. That is not Arizona. So we need to be practical on how we're spending our money and what we're spending our money on. And having more plows is not the answer, not something that I would agree to. So I think we did a fairly good job because of the freezing temperatures and because of the problems we had with the equipment. The only thing I personally did sympathize with was because Manchagas Primavera School, Moyer Road was delayed in getting plowed yet again. It tends to happen because it's a residential street, and school had to be closed on Monday for that particular school. So I hope that we can do a better job for that school or any schools that may be in that position. Primavera is the only one that I'm aware of that was closed yesterday, and it was because the snow was just too deep earlier, and by the time the plows got there Sunday, it was just not able to melt enough to get our appearance in.
Very good. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
You know, I sent an email out to many of you asking that you come, because I think that it's so important that we be a voice out there. Kind of the funniest thing that, and it's being from the Midwest, well, that's 30 years ago, 100 calls were for frozen pipes. Now, they called 911 for a frozen pipe, and so I think what we need to do is try to educate ourselves, keep your temperatures, keep the temperature up where it should be. If you've got a vacant house, that's why I emailed a lot of realtors, and some of you are here. And if it is vacant, well, you need to have somebody run the water, some basic things that maybe we don't always think about in Prescott. But I think about those 100 calls, and I think about the people who went out there that had a dedicated plow to those 100, because a lot of the homes didn't know how to turn, that's what they said, they didn't know how to turn off their water. So maybe this is a really good time to learn how to turn off your water and prepare for the future in case it does happen again. Because those 100 people, that slowed our street cleaning down immensely because of them that called, and thank goodness our people responded. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out too.
Maria?
I see we have a sheet of council considerations. If someone wouldn't mind putting that back up on the screen, I'd like to go over some of these. And are we going to take action, or is this just something that's for discussion? We talked a lot about you talked about what happened, what should happen. Here's some considerations that we can do.
Well, I think it's your kind of mid-year budget meeting. I would suggest that you bring that up and give direction as to what you want Chad or Mark to look at incorporating into the budget for your future decisions.
May I ask, Chad, you've got how many bullets here? 5? Are those the 5 things that are possible? Are those just catch can, or 3 you gotta have? Could we get something from you when we go into budget that we don't have to decide one's good, 5's terrible, let's do 3?
Mayor, Councilwoman Sells, I think the manager had a great idea bringing all these 5 back to a budget time, and let me give you some physical numbers for you to decide on. That's what it's going to come down to. I can tell you, if we switch over to the salt or the ice slicer, we're looking at $500,000 on the maintenance budget. If we
That's for this year, for the coming year?
that'd be for the coming year. So
$500,000.
that'd be for the coming year. If we are going to outfit all of our four-wheel drive vehicles with snowplows, I'm looking at probably $50,000 to $75,000. So it's going to come down to dollars and cents, and we'll bring that to you in the budget year.
We're going to go to the public in just a moment. I just have just a couple of brief things. I've had a listed phone number in Prescott since 1964, and I did learn some new words. There was a lot of frustration in town, some of it deserved. And some of it, I think it was just a good time to beat up on government or whoever represents government. But overall, it was a learning experience. We acknowledge that. We're here today to try to acknowledge it and move forward. So